325 kilometres of racing, sometimes in just 10 centimetres of water, over 4 days on 5 rivers. Welcome to the 98 Lion Foundation River Racing Championships. It's early morning on the Waitaki River just outside Oamaru. 28 teams have assembled for jet boating's premier endurance race to find out who will be New Zealand champion. The winner will come from any one of 5 classes as determined by engine size, anywhere from Neil Robinson's small 4.1 litre powered D-class white heat through to the 10.5 litre unlimited entry of former world champion Neil Ross's Kawerau jet. While it's unlikely Robinson will take out overall honours, many of the lesser powered entries are in with a shot. C-Class Freeman Holmes is powered by a 5 litre injected Chev V8, and driver Mark Freeman will be counting on his light but powerful boat to match it with the likes of Tony Ward in Warehouse Cars and Rob Pooley's AGR. Neil Ross's problems have begun before Kawerau jet even gets to the start.
Overnight, well, we had to pull our motor down, our aluminium block of the sleeve on the move, and could have caused some quite serious damage, but we luckily caught it in time. So we've rebuilt the motor using our cast iron block, so we're right back to square one, except we're 80 pound heavier.
So what's the plan this morning? I mean, because of that, are you just going to take things easy for a start?
Well, I was taking it easy anyway, but we just get out there and see how it goes, and there's thousands of parts in there can fail, so we just hope they all hold together and we're just going to cruise along. We'll keep the pace on, but we won't be going stupid.
The Waitaki is a fast-flowing shingle river fed from the hydro lakes of the Southern Alps. For many of the North Islanders, like Association President Robert Thompson, it's their first time on the Waitaki. He'll be aiming for a clean run in TMR racing through the shallow water to Kurau. In fact, water is a problem for Thompson. Not in the river though, but in the boat. Crewman Rodney Crowe is quick to rectify the situation, refitting a blown engine cooling hose. They cover the 60 kilometres in a shade over 33 minutes, 5th fastest. Stuart Cridge in the twin-turboed Eagle Tunnel and Rob Pooley are both quicker than Thompson, but it's Winton's Jason Scott in the unlimited class Cummins Racing who sets the pace. Mark Freeman is second fastest. Despite the smaller engine, he's only 14 seconds behind Scott. Hastings Ross Bailey is not so fortunate, breaking a vital part of the steering in an unexpected cross-country journey, leaving him high and dry and in search of his trailer.
Rob, where's your boat? I've lost it. Over there by that log.
No joy either for Gary Love and Fowler Holmes, another victim of the shallows. Next stop is the Clutha River, upstream from Bendigo at the head of Lake Dunstan. The 45-kilometre run to Lake Wanaka is in stark contrast to the morning leg. Gone are the skinny braided channels, in their place the wide open stretches of one of New Zealand's highest volume rivers. Huge pressure waves mean the boats will take a pounding. Here the bigger, heavier boats should have an advantage, allowing faster top speeds than the lighter, less stable boats. Rob Pooley's quick craft mono hull should make short work of the rough water, allowing him to close the gap on Mark Freeman in second. Freeman will have to be careful the wind doesn't upset the stability of his much lighter tunnel hull. The rough conditions suit Jason Scott's Cummins racing boat, the long tunnel hull breaking the finish line in just over 25 minutes, a minute and a half clear of the field.
Yeah, we're as happy as Larry here. We can't ask for anything more. We put up our sleeve and we're going to just take her easy now.
Despite the lighter boat, Mark Freeman's Eagle tunnel hull handles the swell with ease, surprisingly extending his lead over Pooley in AGR.
Capacity of the field was here, the big tunnels with their big capacity engines. I didn't expect to be this far up this early in the piece.
Pressure's on now, you've got to stay there, I guess, don't you?
Well, it is, yes. I don't know if we can improve on it in the short term, but it's a case of checking our times out here now and to see how we can fare into the next leg.
So after the first day on the Lion Foundation River Racing Championship, Jason Scott's total elapsed time is 55 minutes and 58 seconds, a lead of over 1.5 minutes from Mark Freeman. Robert Thompson and TMR Racing is a further 2.5 minutes behind, but he has Rob Pooley right on his heels. Stuart Cridge is next on 1 hour, 1 minute and 32 seconds. Neil Ross in Kawerau Jet is beginning to make his presence felt, comfortable in the knowledge his last-minute engine replacement is doing the trick. Two B-class Cantabrians, Ross Forbes and John Watson, round out the top 8. Overnight snowfalls provide a stunning backdrop to day 2 as the teams head to the Matuki-Tuki River on the west side of the lake. With a background like this, the Cummins racing crews snap up a photo opportunity before Scott and the rest of the field head out to the start area in the lake. And there's near disaster for Mark Freeman when the flag drops, a wayward bolt shaken from the accelerator. Frantic repair efforts ensure only a 2-minute delay to their upstream leg. Renowned for hard-charging B-class John Watson takes advantage of Freeman's misfortune, eventually taking out third fastest on the upstream leg. Giving away nearly 100 horsepower, Rob Pooley makes way for Neil Ross near the end of the 15-kilometre stage.
These lake rivers are very, very challenging, especially if we get a bit of cloud, hard to read, and they're very low and flat, and they split even if you look upstream here. If you're coming down that lagoon, you just don't know where to go out until you get to the end of it. So.
The drive to the turnaround point for Leg 4 is much quicker by river than road, but for the enthusiastic trailer crews, the scenery further upstream is worth the effort. Fair to say, logistically, I mean, it's you're covering a lot of territory, aren't you?
Yeah, but it's beautiful. Like, you see so much because you're going into different places as well. Yes, it's great.
I reckon you guys are the unsung heroes. You'd have to agree, wouldn't you?
Yes, yeah, I would. Supply all the meals late at night and do all that sort of thing for them.
They get all the kudos and you do all the hard work.
Support. We support. Yeah.
And support is just what is called for when husband Neville returns downstream. Within sight of the finish, Kelly takes a shortcut that costs him dearly. But worse was yet to come. When they finally get back in the water, the Eagle Tunnel spins violently on another raceboat's wake, tossing Sunset Shaker up the bank and leaving the beautifully prepared raceboat half submerged, unable to start the afternoon leg. Neil Ross, on the other hand, is finding form in Kawerau Jet, travelling the 15 kilometres downstream leg in just 10 minutes 38 seconds, an average speed of 167 kilometres an hour. Definitely with a much slower average time, Robert Thompson's third placing drifts off downstream with the current as he fails to negotiate the shallows. Gary Love and Fowler Holmes joins Thompson in the graveyard, while others just pass on by. Not even the lightest raceboat is light when there's only two of you to push it to deep water. After a steering failure yesterday, Tony Ward is moving back through the field in warehouse cars. The afternoon leg on the Clutha from Albertown back to Lake Dunstan is another consolidation for Jason Scott, taking advantage of the choppy, challenging conditions. As the weather conditions close in, the boats arrive across the lake to end racing for day 2. Pooley is concerned AGR is not performing as well as it should, only just getting on the plane in the last leg. A stop off at Dart Marine in Queenstown reveals the problem.
What had happened should the impeller runs inside that weir ring, and it had sucked the seal, the old ones on the ground. It's got a seal around the back of it, like that, and it had just sucked it away from the housing. It was allowing water to come in from behind the seal and go back into the blade, sort of internal recycling the air and the water, and it wasn't coming out the back where we wanted it. So
The problem has cost him third spot to Neil Ross, but Jason Scott is cleared out at the top of the leaderboard from Mark Freeman by a staggering 4.5 minutes. John Watson's good performance up and downstream moves him to 5th overall, ahead of fellow Canterburyman Ross Forbes. Robert Thompson's park up has cost him 4 places, and Tony Ward has Warehouse Cows rounding out the top 8. Day 3 of the Lion Foundation River Racing Championships, and competitors head for the most northerly end of Lake Wakatipu, Glenorchy. One team looking forward to being back on the water rather than in it, Sunset Shaker. The engine cleaned and checked after the dunking yesterday is ready to go.
Start time is 11:15.
The start line off the end of the jetty means a race across the open lake to the mouth of the Dart River. The windy conditions make for a wet and wild ride. The river mouth provides some shelter, but the ride is still rough as teams battle their way up into the mountains to Chinaman's Bluff. As the man who started commercial jet boating in Glenorchy, you could be forgiven for thinking Neil Ross has an unfair advantage, but he sees it otherwise.
Well, it's true that I've done thousands and thousands of hours on the river commercially, but that counts for nothing today. The river's very low, it changes all the time, and the last time I actually boated the river was before the winter, so to me it's like a whole new river. It's low, it's clear, yeah, it's going to be pretty tricky.
All the local knowledge in the world isn't going to make any difference today. Carro Jet's substitute engine is taking water into the oil, and the decision is made to withdraw before it does more serious and expensive damage. Undeterred, Ross finds an alternative route and somewhat unorthodox means of making the upstream finish.
Yes, well, I'll tell you what, we weren't giving up. A bit of problem with the boat, so we got into the four-wheel drive, and here we are, we made it. Yeah. Water and oil, it's a bit terminal, so we won't be in it again tomorrow, but we'll pull it apart and we'll be back.
Cold mountain wind turns to sleet as organisers bring forward the start time for the return to Glenorchy.
Don't finish too far off the wharf, otherwise the timekeepers won't be able to get your time. Get your
Everyone
number.
eager to get underway on the homeward journey. No time is wasted finding the quickest route. one more than John Watson knows the quickest way home on a braided shingle river, and he's not often beaten when it comes to boating the unboatable. But as they say, every dog has its day, and today the dart bites back. Watson a victim of the river's twisting channels. Ross Forbes in Shady Blues is also contemplating his misfortune, hoping his support crew can find him in the maze of riverbed channels. He's not the only one in trouble. Michael Payne blew the engine in midway on the upstream leg. Now the task of rescuing it from the other side of the river is creating problems of its own. Race leader Jason Scott gives an impressive display of driving on both legs, but it's Mark Freeman who takes out the Ralph Brown Memorial Trophy for the fastest time up and down the dart.
I think it was a very, very worthy winner. I was just absolutely impressed how well his boat was going from watching on the sideline. So for you, Mark, we've got this one here for you.
Overall, Jason Scott still is in command of the race on 2 hours 13 minutes and 50 seconds, over 3.5 minutes clear of Freeman. Rob Hawley moves back into third after Neil Ross and Robert Thompson retire with terminal engine problems. The ever-consistent Nigel Butterfield has taken advantage of Watson and Forbes' grounding and takes Racecourse Motor Lodge to a class lead and fourth overall. Stuart Cridge's big twin-turbo Chev allows him to make up for lost time spent pushing the heavy tunnel yesterday, with Tom Stevenson, the highest placed D-class entry, sneaking into sixth outright. John Watson's penalty time today leaves him languishing at the bottom of the leaderboard, with the hard-charging Tony Ward in Warehouse Cars staying in touch. Day 4, the final stage of the Lion Foundation River Racing Championships. The start is on Lake Wakatipu in Queenstown Bay. Drivers and navigators assemble for the last time to receive their instructions and start order.
Is that quite clear? We don't want anyone going under the gate. You may get under, you probably will, but
The dash out of the bay and around into Frankton Arm is spectacular as the boats leap out of the water in a bid to lead the way under the Kawerau Dam Bridge. Racing down the Kawerau River to a turnaround point just short of the Smiths Fall, the boats converge back upstream at the confluence with the Shotover River. Attempts at entering the shallow channels of the lower Shotover were not all that successful. Before long, it was looking like a race boat graveyard. But some still made it through. Those who did were powering up the Shotover Gorge, led by race leader Jason Scott and Cummins Racing. As expected, Mark Freeman and Rob Pooley were close behind. Despite starting 2 minutes back in the second wave, Tony Ward and Warehouse Cars blasted his way into the first group with the quickest time to the Gorge Bridge. Viewing platforms in the heart of this tourist region are plenty, and race supporters take advantage of the opportunity to view the race from different vantage points. Even the departing tourists on Air New Zealand get a sneak preview as they wait for takeoff from the runway overlooking the river. Up in the gorge though, boats have already taken to the air. The dash home back to Frankton Arm is short and sweet and definitely spectacular. Both Jason Scott and Mark Freeman taking their fair share of risks. Safely out of the lower Shotover, all that remains is a drag up the Kaua Row and under the bridge to the finish line. Nothing can change the final positions now. After 2 hours 46 minutes and 22 seconds, Cummins Racing, or Hang Loose as the Southland team call themselves, have hung together to earn Scott his first major jet boat title. 3.5 minutes clear of Mark Freeman in the C-Class Freeman Homes. Further back, but in no risk of losing his third place, Rob Pooley in AGR. And Nigel Butterfield powers his B-Class racecourse motor lodge across the lake to capture 4th overall.
Sat on in the last minute, but you know, Jason really had it in the bag. There's 3 minutes a lot of time to fall off, but he did the job and did it well. You know, you just can't afford to make mistakes in this business.
How do you feel now?
Real good. Stress is off and we'll be right tonight. Yes.
You'll be hanging loose.
Yep, that's us.
boat generating up to 800 horsepower, Neil Ross is hoping to lead many of his rivals in his wake this week. While he has no doubts about his boat's speed, it still has to last 4 days of hard racing on 6 South Island rivers.
To finish first, you must first finish. So it's a combination of both, very much. And we've actually used the horsepower a little bit back from what the potential of the motor is, and we're going for reliability.
Ross knows the rigours of racing as well as anyone. He's won New Zealand and world titles, although business commitments meant he missed last year's World Championship, won by Christchurch driver Michael Hill. Ross has been in jet boating either competitively or commercially since the 1970s,
This area on our right over here is called Paradise.
but he hasn't raced here since '96, so is keen to again put his foot to the floor.
I'm looking forward to getting out and on the water again and having another go. Yeah, it's lots of fun.
The marathon starts on the Waitaki River near Oamaru tomorrow, and then through some of the country's most spectacular scenery before the final runs on the Kawerau and Shotover rivers on Saturday. While some drivers were viewing the 60 kilometres up the fast-flowing Waitaki River with trepidation, former New Zealand and world champion Neil Ross was happy just to be at the start line. He was up to the early hours this morning, replacing his highly modified alloy motor.
So we've rebuilt the motor using our cast iron block, so we're right back to square one, except we're 80 pound heavier.
Ross nursed his boat through the opening stage, finishing 8th. 4 minutes faster with the quickest time overall was Winton's Jason Scott.
It was better than what we expected. I thought it was going to be a bit harder. We were a bit worried about willow trees and things, but no, we had a real clean run.
Mark Freeman driving his C-Class. Freeman Holmes was down on horsepower, but still got second, ahead of Nelson's Rob Pooley. While Robert Thompson from Stratford finished 5th, despite blowing a water hose. This afternoon, the marathon continued with a 45-kilometre stage on the Clutha River, with Scott holding a slender 14-second lead over Freeman. The choppy conditions presented no problems for Scott. He breezed home at the head of the field to open up a commanding lead of 1 minute and 42 seconds. David DeSoma, One Network News. The scenery around Wanaka was matched by some spectacular racing on day 2.
These lake rivers are very, very challenging, especially if we get a bit of cloud, hard to read, and they're very low and flat.
Pooley, 4th overall, had no answer to former world champion Neil Ross in his 8.9 litre Canadian tunnel hull. Ross was easily the fastest on the braided Tuki, averaging more than 165 kilometres an hour on the down leg to go to 3rd overall. John Watson also made a charge, moving to 5th, despite blowing an exhaust. And that was nothing compared to the day's other casualties. Many ended up high and dry. Queenstown's Neville Kelly was one whose boat, Sunset Shaker, was going nowhere.
Just come down past that, under the bridge, and caught the wake of another boat, and she just spun around and just shot straight up the bank there.
But staying on top of the swell and the field is Southlander Jason Scott. He leads by 4 minutes. David DeSoma, One Network News. Third overnight, Neil Ross was expected to make his move on his home river, but it was far from a happy homecoming for the former world champion. Water in the engine forcing him to make an unorthodox appearance at the finish line.
I was really looking forward to the day today, but you know, that's racing.
Christchurch driver Mark Freeman continued his charge with the fastest time upstream and second fastest downstream to be 2nd overall. 3.5 minutes ahead of Freeman is Southland's Jason Scott.
We've had a real good run with mechanical side of things, and everything just come together real good.
While Scott's boat was humming, others weren't. Only a similar disaster on the final 2 rivers will stop Scott from becoming New Zealand champion tomorrow. David DeSoma, One Network News. With a big lead going into the last day, only a crash or mechanical problems were going to stop Jason Scott and his Southland-based Hang Loose racing team. And on the Shotover Rapids, a lucky break.
We hit a big rock up in there and no water leaked in and we got through, yeah.
Scott's closest challenger, Mark Freeman, also had his scary moments. Others were not so fortunate. Neil Robinson had a spin. He was one of 5 boats in the stretch of water, pushing it to get back into the race. At the head of the field, Scott and Freeman continued their private battle. Freeman's C-Class boat finishing second overall.
And for the fact we're using small cubic inch to produce that power, it makes it probably an exceptional achievement.
Scott was clearly dominant over the 4 days and 325 kilometres of racing, clearing out in the end to win by 3 minutes 50 seconds. As Scott won his first national title, the Hang Loose team celebrated.
Stress is off and we'll be right tonight, yeah.
You'll be hanging loose.
Yep, that's us.
Now Scott has his sights on next year's World Championships in North America. David DeSoma, One Network News. From day one, Jason Scott's Hang Loose racing team was the one to beat. In the end, no one even really got that close. The Southland-based driver was the fastest on 4 of the 9 stages, surprising even himself going into the final 2 stages on Saturday.
I thought it would come down to being close and a minute ahead or something in the last day, and would be chasing the minute behind, but not being ahead of the field like we are.
The 26-year-old builder from Winton, however, did have his anxious moments, hitting a rock on the Shotover Rapids, though the boat wasn't damaged. It was the sort of incident his rivals were banking on. Second place Mark Freeman virtually conceding defeat after day 2.
Rougher water, he's bettering me. The tighter conditions, the smoother going, yes, I can use my power to make a bit of time, but I can't make 4 minutes over probably 115k.
Freeman was the surprise package of the championships. His C-Class boat was well down on horsepower compared to Scott and other boats in the unlimited class. The Hang Loose racing team was out in force on the second day, though it was more notable for the charge made by 1995 world and 96 New Zealand champion Neil Ross. He was easily the quickest up and down the Matuki to go to 3rd overall behind Scott and Freeman. On the 3rd day, he was expected to challenge Scott on the Dart River, a stretch of water he knows better than anyone.
Well, it's true that I've done thousands and thousands of hours on the river commercially, but that counts for nothing today.
But there was no happy homecoming, water in the engine forcing him to retire, leaving him to arrive at the finish by land rather than water. Nelson driver Rob Pooley had the day's fastest run down the Dart to go to 3rd overall, a position he maintained to the end. Christchurch driver Nigel Butterfield in his Class B boat also made his move on the final 2 days to nail 4th overall. Going into the last day, the Hang Loose team was determined nothing was going to stop them. As some spun out and others struggled on the braided sections of the Shotover River, Scott duly delivered the team its first national title, winning by 3 minutes 50 seconds.
Stress is off and we'll be right tonight, yeah.
You'll be hanging loose.
Yep, that's us.
Next year, the aim is to go to North America for the World Championships. In the meantime, the team's celebrating its best ever result.